Hey everybody, and welcome back to the for loop. It's good to be back once again, and we've got quite a bit to do, so I want to hopefully finish this up and get our calculator working by the end of this tutorial. So I've got some notes, and I actually ran through the tutorial beforehand so that we could get everything working. And so first things first, let's go ahead and change a couple of things. The first thing I want to change is this stack of integers. I'm going to change that to a float. And the reason is because when we're calculating, we might do a multiply or a divide, or mostly divide. It's going to leave us with a decimal point, and so this is it's going to error out if we try and put a decimal value inside of an integer stack. So that's one of the first things we're going to change. And let's see here. Okay, now this guy wants us to change it. So instead of integer.parseInt, what we're going to do is, let's see here. I believe it's float dot parse float. Okay. All right. So where did we leave off here? We get the button text, and then we're saying, okay, if we hit the C button, we're going to print out everything. That's fine. We can do that. So if it's numeric, then we're going to push it to the number stack. If it's not numeric, then we're going to push it to the character stack. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and take out this print stuff, and we're going to call this function calc. So if we, we're going to clear everything out if we push the C. So we're going to clear the label. Then we are going to clear the stacks. So number stack dot remove all elements, and then we'll do that for the string stack as well. There we go. Okay, so that takes care of C. Now what we want is I'm going to put another else if in here, because I want to do something different if we push the equal button. So I'm going to say if button text content equals, because we're comparing strings, and then we're going to compare it on equal. Okay. So now we've got the equals in there. So what are we going to do if there's an equal? Well, first we want to make sure that there's stuff in both stacks. So we're going to check and say if number stack dot size is greater than 0, and then this is an operator for booleans. So if you have two booleans and they're both true, then this will compare them and return true. If there's one true, one false, this will return false. And if there's two false, it will return false as well. So I'll explain that a little bit more as soon as I write this second part down. So we're going to say string stack dot size greater than 0. So what this is saying is, well, first of all, I'm going to get rid of those. And I'll just put one of these in there. Okay, so what this is saying is if the number stack size is greater than 0 and the string stack size is greater than 0, then do this stuff. Otherwise, go to the next thing. So we're going to push it to the number stack, and we have to convert it to a float, because we're going to put in the label text, label.getText. Okay. So first we push the current number so when you push, like, say 1 plus 1 and then you hit equals, well, the 1 is still on the calculator screen, so we need to push that to the stack before we do our calculations. because otherwise it won't be in the number stack and we'll be trying to calculate 1 plus nothing, and that doesn't work. And then we're going to do float f equals calc, and that'll make more sense in a second as soon as we implement the calc method. And then we'll set the label's text to f plus open string, or blank string. And the reason you do f plus blank string, when you do this, when you do a string plus something else, it converts that to a string. So if you just try and do set text to the float, it's going to give us an error because it says, well, I can't set text to a float. You have to have a string. So when we add this blank string, it converts all that to a string, and we're able to set the text with that. Okay. Alright, so next let's do this is numeric. So what have we got here? If is numeric, so if the button text is numeric, then we're going to do one other thing here. We're going to say if is numeric, and what we're doing is we're getting the label text, and if that's true, I'm sorry, so if the label text is not numeric, then what we're going to do is we're going to set the label text to nothing. And the reason we do this is because let's say you do 1 plus 1, but let's see, why is it, oh, I need one more parenthesis there. Okay, let's say you do 1 plus 1, or there's sorry, you want to do 10 plus 1. So what we want to do here is say if there's a 1 in the label, then we want to go ahead and append the 0 next to the 1. Instead of just pushing the 1 onto our stack, we want to wait and see if the next digit you type is actually a number. So maybe you want to add like 100 plus 1. Well, if you do 1 and then 0, it's going to push the 1 and then it's going to push the 0. But by doing this little conditional here, we can wait until, let's say there's a plus sign or there's an equal sign or whatever, what have you. We'll wait till that is done, and then we can go ahead and push the next number or start appending the next number together. And I feel like I didn't explain that very well, probably because I didn't, but the first time we run the application, I think I'll try and explain this again so that it'll make more sense, and hopefully that clears things up. So let's go on to the next line here. So if we already did that, we're going to set the text to nothing if it's a character. If it's not a character, it's going to just continue on, and we're going to do label.setText, label.getText plus button text. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to set the text, and it's going to add what's already there to whatever you pushed. So that goes with what I said earlier about if you push 1, then it's going to say a 1 in the label already. But if you push 2, the very next button, then you say you want 12. That's what you want. So we'll go ahead and append those values together, and now we have 12 instead of just 1 and then 2. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out because we're going to wait to push that, because we want to, every time we call this, we want to keep appending the numbers together, and we want to wait to push that number until we do something else like push equal or character. And that's why up here we went ahead and pushed it to the number stack when the equals button was pushed, because maybe we want to do like 1 plus 100. Well, this guy doesn't want to push until we're done typing all those digits, so 100. So let's say we do 1 plus 100, and then 100 is in the label, and then we push equal. Well, now it knows, okay, you're done typing the number. I can go ahead and push this number to the stack and then do my calculations. So I hope that clears it up just a little bit. And I think the next one is going to be our character push. And we'll do something similar. So what we're going to do first is number stack dot push, and then we'll parse it out. Okay, and so the reason we're pushing a number here is because possibly we type 15 and then plus something else. So if this guy is waiting for us to push 1, 5, it doesn't know if we want 150 something or if we just want 15. So it's going to wait until we're done pushing all those numbers. And when we push the character like a plus sign or a minus sign or a multiply, then it knows, okay, now you're done typing your number. I can go ahead and push that number to the stack. Okay. Then we're going to say if number stack dot size equals 2, then float f equals calc. Okay, so what this guy is saying is if you have two numbers on the stack, let's go ahead and calculate it. So let's say you push 1 plus 1 and then you push the plus again. It's going to come in here. It's going to, of course, push your 1 that you just typed in there. But then it's going to say, okay, you have two numbers in there already, 1 and 1. So I'm going to go ahead and calculate you, and then the result I'm going to store in your label. So instead of having to push the equal sign, it will go ahead and calculate that for us, and it'll immediately use the result as the new number for us. And that's what most calculators do, so that's why I tried to incorporate it in this calculator. And as we go along, you'll find that there's going to be bugs in this code. I mean, we threw it together pretty quickly, but it's going to be pretty good for a simple calculator, and it'll give you a good idea. And feel free to try and make it more complex. I mean, that's your area. I think that this will get you good and started, and so you'll be able to do something like that. And it just, I mean, honestly, it's a few more if statements to check if this is this size, or if it's nothing, if there's nothing in the number stack, you need to do, you can't do anything on it. And so there's just a few way to check yourself there, kind of foolproof your own program. So we'll continue on, and what we want to do is we want to remove all elements from the string stack. And the reason I do this is because I only want one operand in the string stack at once. You could have more. You could do 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 and then click equal and have all the calculations go at once if you wanted to. That's quite a bit more complex. I only ever want one operand in my string stack at a time, just because it's simpler and I think it'll be quicker for us to get to the end result. So we'll go ahead and push that on, and then we'll do label.setText. And that's just going to set the label to our plus or minus or whatever we typed. Now, it could be the case that you type in two numbers, like 12 plus 12, and then maybe you hit a minus. And what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and calc it, and then it's going to push it on there again, and then it's going to set the minus. Alright, so there is one change I want to make to my numeric here. And the reason I want to do this is because let's say that there's nothing in your string from the label. So when we come up here and we say, let's see, is numeric button text, but perhaps after pushing the clear button, your button text gets set to an empty string, and this is all theoretical, then this is going to fail because it's going to try and convert your string to an array and different things. It's just good coding to go ahead and put a try catch in here, because there's going to be a lot of places for error in this case, and this is just going to cover us. So we're going to try and do this, and if it fails, we're going to do catch an exception. And if it fails, what are we going to do? We're just going to say return false. So there you go. If it fails, it's not numeric. Easy enough. Alright, one last thing. Let's go ahead and get rid of this print stack, and let's make this our calc function. and we want our calc function to return the result, which is going to be a float. And I'll go ahead and take this out. We'll just start with a completely new function here. Okay. So this is a private function, returns a float. Why are you erroring? Okay, it has to return float. Easy. So we're going to start off with initializing our float result, and I call it result because that's what we're going to return. So you have to initialize it, so just set it to 0. And then we're going to set our first integer equal to number stack dot pop. So this is actually going to be the second number that you type in, because remember it pops off backwards as you put it in. So float int, we'll set our second int, number stack dot pop. And the order of the integers doesn't really matter if you're adding or if you're multiplying, but if you're subtracting or if you're dividing, it does matter, and it'll actually change the result. So we'll keep that in mind as we code this part. So I'm going to set a string equal to string stack dot pop, and I want to set that to a char equal s1 dot char at. And the reason I can do this is because I know that my string s1 will only ever have one digit in it, and I know that because every time I try and add something to it, I immediately remove everything in it. So there's only ever going to be 1 or possibly 0 in it. Okay, and also I wanted to say the reason we convert this to a char instead of just using a string is because the next thing we're going to do is do a switch case. And a switch case is harder to use with a string than it is with a char. So that's why we're going to do that. So this is how you use switch case. And actually a switch case is extremely similar to an if-else statement, but I used a switch this time because I wanted to get you guys used to using that. So switch case plus result equals int1 plus int2. And what this is saying is this is the guy that we're analyzing. We're analyzing the operand, which is it's either going to be a plus, minus, multiply, or divide. So it's saying analyze this guy. If it's a plus, in the case that it's a plus, then we're going to do this operation, int1 plus int2. And then we just break it. And then the next case is going to be a minus. And the result is going to equal, now remember this is going to be int2 minus int1 because it pops them off backwards. And case multiply. And we're going to say the result equals int1 times int2. Then we're going to break it. And case divide result equals int2 divided by int1. And that's, you got to remember that it's backwards, same as the minus. And then that's the end of our case. So that's where all our calculations happen. Not too bad. Return result. Okay, so after we do our operation, we're just going to return it. And we'll go back up here and I'll talk about where I put the calculation or the calc function. So here's one place where I put the calc function. So I run the calc function, and it's going to go down here and run the operation. Then it's going to come back and store the result in the float f, and then we're going to set the text of our label to the new result. Also, I called it here, and it's very similar. So it's going to store the result in this value of f. Then it's going to set the label's text to that value, and it's also going to push that value back onto the number stack. So as you can see, when you pop these two off of the number stack, now the number stack is going to be empty. So you need to push this guy back on, and it will be your first int, and then you'll be able to push plus and then push your second int and just keep going like it's like a regular calculator, honestly. So I don't believe that I forgot anything here. I'm just going to double check quick. I think we're good. Okay, it looks like we're pretty good. And what I want to do is go ahead and try it out as soon as I can make sure we're good. Just checking my notes quick. Yeah, it looks like we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and run this guy. And I wish I had the time to take you guys through my debugging earlier, because I did have a few issues that I had to debug through. And debugging is a really important part, but it just takes a lot more time. Should probably be another tutorial. So we push the 1 button, it sets our label to 1. Then we go plus, it's going to set it to plus. Then we do a 1 again. Then we'll hit equal, and we get 2. And now see there's 2.0. That's because we're returning a float. We talked about that earlier. Now let's say we want to take this result and add 3. Now we add 3 equals 5. Oh, let's take off 1. There's 4. Let's divide it by 2 equals 2. Let's subtract 8 because it's negative 6. Multiply by 3 equals negative 18. So you can see this is working really well. So there is a few bugs with this. We can go ahead and clear it here, and it will erase our label, and then we can start all over again. And we can do, let's go ahead and clear it and try 12 plus 46 equals, and you can see it. That's why we didn't want to push the number on until we were done typing all of our values. And you can see that right now. It just keeps adding those values. And we can add that to 7. And you can just see how it is really handy not to push those numbers on until we call one of these plus, minus, divide, or equal sign. Just because you never know how many integers you want to add on there. And then divide by 3. So this calculator is working pretty well. I recommend that you guys try and put a few extra coverings in there. Like, for example, what if I push equals when there's nothing there? Nothing happens. And that's because we put this nice little if statement. Let's see, right here, just to check the sizes. So that's one little check just to cover yourself and make your app a little more usable. So try and find some other issues with it. This is one of the last things I did just because I wanted it to work well. And try and put your own little conditionals in there to try and make it a little more foolproof. I'm going to put out one more tutorial that just shows how to make this GUI look a little bit nicer. But the calculator is there, it's working. I'm pretty happy with it. Hope you guys are too. Hope you guys learned a lot in this series. And leave any questions that you have, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.